Okay, here we go. We're going to continue where we left off. Obviously, I'm on a day one live full thing again, so we're just going to go race by race. If things catch my eye, I'm going to stop, pause, make comments, and we'll see how it goes. So here we go. I'll start watching, and you'll probably hear from me in a bit. All right, I'm just going to make sure that this... Okay, we're back recording. Fantastic. So we're looking at this... men's fours, and we're coming down, and here's something that we want to take a look at, and this is an important part of the stroke that a lot of times people, they kind of ignore it. Obviously everybody does it, but do they maximize it? And what I'm talking about is the pivot, the layback, right? The movement of the shoulders from in front of the hip to the bow side of the hip. So we're going to watch this is this London College or University of London? I think it is University of London. So here we go. We're going to come through and we're going to watch the way that these guys here attack the layback. Okay, and they do a really good job. Now I think they're opening too early. I think they should actually hold the forward pivot a little longer, but they really are aggressive through that layback. They don't just let it happen. A lot of times we get a good strong drive from the legs. The body happens to pass over the hips, and then we really draw it into the body. But we're going to watch, and especially I'll say stroke seat, stroke and three seat, but especially I'll watch stroke seat. And you can really see how they push the shoulders back, right? There's a real intensity to that drive of the shoulders past the hips. So here we go. We're just going to watch this for a second. Oh, and we're going to mute this. Okay. So now we're watching, and boom, see how the shoulders drive back. They drive back, right? They're accelerating that body through. It's not just moving from the legs to the arms. Look at this right here. Boom, you see the shoulders. They power back, okay? Now the next crew is going to come into view down here, and we're going to compare it. We're going to see what it looks like when another crew is doing this, and they're not getting that same intensity. And we're going to look at stroke seat here, and let's just watch them. And you don't see that same drive, right? The shoulders go back, of course, but we see more effort of the arms pulling the handle to the body rather than the shoulders driving back and forcing the boat past that blade. So it's not something that is super noticeable. It's not something that we really say, oh, look at this. This is really terrible. Because it's something that you know it when you see it. These guys here are really attacking each phase of the stroke, each phase being the leg drive, the layback, and the draw. These guys here are a little softer through that layback. They're probably strong on the legs. They're definitely, pulling that handle to the body, which is something that I've said before. I'm not a big fan of that terminology. I really think of drawing the blade to the body because it would engage more of those core muscles, the big, strong core muscles, to get that blade all the way to the body. We don't want to put it on the biceps and the smaller muscles, which is what we tend to do when we think of pulling the blade. But that's what we're looking for. Is we want to be this, driving the shoulders back, rather than this just kind of letting the layback happen. By virtue of the fact that we've done the legs, we're waiting to get to the arms, and something has to happen. So I guess I'm going to lay back. Right? This is why we need very strong cores, why we should sit up tall, why we should really have a good solid base to press against. Because if we let our body collapse, if we're not in a good strong position, we can't maximize that power. We can't brace against the pressure on the blade in the same way as we can if we have that really strong physical positioning, right? And here we can really see how they're getting great power application through the mid part of the drive, and it's served them very well, pushing that boat down the water. All right, so in previous analysis with the crew, what I talked about for the right off the start, we're going to come to this here and we're going to look at the start. We've got, I guess, City of Bristol over here, and then over here we've got Upper Thames. Again, I have no idea how this is going to play out. One thing I will note is these guys here, Upper Thames, I do like how when they said attention, these blades here got buried, and when they said attention, these blades here did not get buried. So I like that these guys here are paying attention to those little details, whereas these guys are letting things slip just a little bit right off the start. So, but who knows? They may still come out and win. But what I really like about these guys here off the start is once they actually start going, boom, now they're taking off. I was talking in a previous video about people trying to rush through starts and not let the stroke actually complete because they're so intent on cranking up the rate and being very intense and being as fast as they can off the start that they forget to actually complete each part of the stroke. And especially I'm going to focus on the releases here. One thing that these guys do right off the start when they're trying to push that power, push that rate, look at this, we still get very nice disconnect from the water. Right? Look at these blades. They get up and away. So do these guys here, by the way. I'm not trashing them because look at that. That's nice. It's just we have a better view of these. So generally, both these crews here do a pretty good job of this. Right? We're going to not talk too much about the difference in blade angle over here. We're just looking at the releases. Okay. So they get good, strong engagement here. The blades are nicely buried. They're not too deep, and it's very easy to go too deep off the start. But these guys here have a really nice blade depth. They come through. Look at this. Good, clean extraction. We see full blade face as it's coming out, and then this guy here does a really good job. Bow seat, not quite as well. He kind of lays the blade down a little bit, but this guy really does a good job of bringing that bottom up to the top of the blade. Look at the distance they've got between the water, so they're not going to get caught and trapped by the water. They're clean in those extractions. That's going to really let that boat run and utilize the power that they give it. Don't try to rush through that stroke, right? Everybody's intent on getting it going and being really, really rambunctious off the start. I am a big believer that starts are overrated, okay? People think, oh my goodness, if I don't get a good start, I'm going to be doomed. I encourage people to not think that way. The reality is this is just getting the boat moving. And if you look at some of the faster crews out there, even if you go back and watch a lot of the Kiwi pair races, who were, one of the fastest freaking pairs, they are the fastest pair ever. Look at their starts. They're not the first and fastest off the block. They're very, very controlled. They're very deliberate, and they get good power application. They get the boat moving without making things too harried in there. And that's what we want. We want to just make sure that we get that boat moving. That's all it is. Don't get yourself spazzing out. Stay controlled, stay focused, stay strong, stay deliberate. Right? That doesn't mean go weak, and that doesn't mean don't go fast. But when you're going through that in a very intense fashion, still stick to the basics, right? Focus on all those things. Good rowing is always good rowing, and that's what you want to keep. So let's watch this in full speed. We're going to mute this. Here we go. Boom. Look at these extractions. Very nice. That's going to let the boat get speed and push it on. So that's really good stuff. So here we are at the end of that race. And Upper Thames is definitely going to take it. Now, what we see here, notwithstanding this guy here right now being a little bit lazy on getting that blade prep. Or actually, sorry, this guy here is probably early on the... No, he just didn't get himself squared up early. Okay, is this. These guys do a really nice job. They extract the blades, they set the blade height, they hold it across. All right, let's watch this. This is boom. They get the blade height here. Look at that. See the way those blades lift up and away from the water. That's what we want to see. And now, obviously, they've brought the rate down to, because they're way ahead, so they're just conserving energy for the next round. But that's what I like to see. I really like to see people focus on getting those blades up and away. The way I say is basically you want to push that blade shaft to my ideal. It's going to be pretty much parallel to the water. Okay, I like low hands on the recovery, and I like prepping the blade early. The reason I like low hands, and again, a lot of people will say to me that I probably overemphasize it, which there might be some validity to that. But the reason I like it is because it gets that blade up and away from the danger zone. The water is the danger zone. Now, people tend to think that as you push the hands down, oh no, the boat's going to get more tippy. I'm going to be more unstable. But that's actually the opposite of what happens. The more you can push those hands down, obviously you don't want your blades flying up to the sky, right? But getting it towards a parallel to the water position. I like to think of it as you're setting that blade now, and it's like you're the tightrope walker. Okay, a tightrope walker doesn't want the they basically want to have their pole right in the center with the ends going straight out. It's going to create a really nice level of stability. Now, if you allow those blades to have an angle on them, you're at risk of each person having a slightly different angle. But parallel blades to the water means that everybody, no matter what, if you get your blade parallel to the water, you're going to be even with everybody else in your boat, and that is going to be a stable boat. It's a good stable platform to operate from. So you don't have any tip of that pole from the tightrope walker way down here and then another one way up here, right, where it's going to lead to more instability. It's going to be a nice straight line. Further to that, it means that as I square that blade coming up the recovery, I don't need to worry about changing my hand heights at all in order to square that blade. I've already got enough room, so it's just roll that blade to the square and I can drop it in. I don't have to worry about any extra vertical motion that's taking part here. Additionally to that, if you're in rough conditions or if the person behind you washes out a little and creates a little bit of spray, or you've got, like I say, you're in rough conditions, the waves are coming up a little bit, your blade is going to be high enough to pass over those waves and let your boat cut through the waves a little bit easier. So to me, by getting those blades up, you just have to be focused on where you're placing your hands through that release position and how you hold them coming up. But once you've made that pattern the norm, once you've locked that in as that is your stroke pattern, you don't have to think about it anymore. The body will take care of those mechanics, and it sets you up for a lot of good things later down the line. So I definitely encourage crews to push those hands down, get the blades up off the water, and you're ultimately, in the long term, I think you're going to be setting yourself up very well. These guys are doing a nice job of getting those blades good and hot. All right, so here we are. Princess Elizabeth Cup. We've got, I guess, Norwich and Monmouth. I believe that's who they said it was. So again, my pre-launch comment, okay, is get those blades buried. They've called the attention, and we see blades here not quite buried, tips poking up. Again, I'm not saying these guys are necessarily going to lose, but from a coaching standpoint, this is attention to detail. I know I've said it before, I belabor it. It's attention to detail, and this tells me, number one, that they're lacking attention to detail. But number two, also, if people tend to do this, it tells me they don't know when their blade is actually locked in the water. They don't have a really good feel for that blade being fully locked in to that blade being just in the water. So that's why I don't like seeing this, right? It tells me that they're not really connected to what they're feeling at the end of that blade. And that's something that that I would work on with a crew, right? And I think something like an eyes closed is really going to be good for this because it forces somebody to feel what's going on with their blade, whereas when our eyes are open, there's so much other information coming in. We're oftentimes oblivious to what's happening out there. So I would kind of do pairs, fours rowing, eyes closed, making sure that people really try to feel how that blade locks into the water. Again, these guys could storm through this, but just from a coaching standpoint, I don't really like seeing this. It's a lack of care, a lack of attention to detail. All right, so we're still pretty early into this race. As you can see, they're still pretty much in the starting stretch right now. But one boat has already taken a significant lead over the other, right? I believe that's Norwich over Monmouth. Now, we're going to look at a couple things. One is the amount of body opening that we see here, okay? So when we talk about a crew moving fast and unifying application of force, unifying power, we want everybody in here to be a copy and paste of all the other bodies as far as how they move through a stroke. So we're going to look at stroke seat here and watch how much this body moves, this body angle, the hip to shoulder angle moves through the first part of the stroke in regards to, or in relation to how much the legs are actually driving. Here we go. Look at this. Totally opening up, totally opening up, totally opening up. Okay, so by the time he's here straight over, he's almost straight up and down over the hips now, whereas just a few frames ago, he had a very, very steep angle here. That tells us we haven't gotten much out of these legs at all, right? This is very much heaving away on the handle. What we also have at this point now, as we go down the boat, we're going to see, look where his legs are, look where his legs are, look at his legs, look at his legs. So these legs are all at different parts in the stroke. This guy's basically done his leg drive, right? This guy's body angle is still forward, still forward, still forward, sitting up, sitting up. So we've got a lot of disparate forces. People are not taking the same stroke. We have 8 people in here rowing, 5 or 6 different strokes effectively. So that means that we're not going to get that same power application. We're fighting against each other just a little bit through each of those strokes, and we need to unify that power, right? The more we can unify that power, the better return we're going to get from that energy investment. What we also see here is, and the commentators talk about this actually, so I'm not going to try to steal their thunder, right? But they definitely talk about this. But what we want to see here is, they say that the far crew is rowing at a slightly lower rate, but they're getting much better return. Now, I tend to think of it as rate is, and this isn't 100% true, obviously. This isn't exact. But what I like people to think of, and what I try to think of with rate is a factor of timing at the catch, timing through the release, and acceleration through the drive. Not a factor of getting up the slide to take that next stroke, because no matter what happens on the at the catch, through the drive, and through the release, we want to relax and quote, take our time up the slide. We want to be very soft and controlled and relaxed. If we're not, we're just going to come charging up, and that throws a lot of momentum and weight against the momentum of the boat. And those forces are going to be, 2 freight trains hitting head on. Boom, they're going to clash. And generally, because of the weight of all the people here versus the weight of the boat is going to be the loser, and we're going to lose a lot of speed. So we want to think of really minimizing the time it takes through those transition zones, the catch, the release, minimizing the time that we're in the water, but we do that through acceleration, not through just being in the water a short period of time. Then once the blades are extracted, we've set our body out of bow, then we're just going to ease our way up that slide, and we're going to relax and let that boat utilize the speed that we've given it. So when we watch this here, we are going to see these guys here just take a little bit more care coming up the slide. Right, they're coming up that slide very, very smooth, very relaxed into the catch, and they're really letting that boat run. They're letting it utilize the power that they have given it, right? Whereas these guys, look at how quick they kind of accelerate out of bow. Look at this here, right? And boom, he's right up. Boom, he's right up. They're racing up to take that next stroke, which isn't something we want. We want to let the boat glide almost underneath us, right? We almost want to have a recovery. And again, this isn't 100%, but this is what we want to think of it. We almost want to have a recovery where as we're coming up, we're not actually coming to the catch. We're just letting the boat pass underneath us. We're staying kind of even with a point on the shore, and then we pick it up again, because that means now that the boat is doing the motion underneath us. We're not doing motion coming against the boat, if that makes sense, right? That's going to be a much better way of maximizing that speed. All right, now this is actually just a few seconds after I hit the pause button on the previous one. Now, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. When we look at these 2 crews, now obviously there's going to be slight differences in length of stroke, but watch here, right? These blades of both crews are going to go into the water pretty much at exactly the same time. Okay? They take that stroke, and they're going to exit pretty much at the same time. They're exiting very similar to each other. So the time through that drive is pretty much the same. So if we assume that the length of the stroke is amazingly comparable, okay, that none of them are either significantly longer or significantly shorter than the other crew, the time in the water is the same. So the acceleration phase of that is going to be very, very, very comparable. This crew is rowing a lower rate. So why are they at a lower rate with a similar acceleration time through the water able to pull away from this crew? Okay, and it's because of what they're doing on the recovery, right? Obviously, there's going to be stuff to do with the catch and the release as well. But they're basically they're softer, they're more relaxed, they're letting that boat utilize the speed. They're not charging their body weight against the speed of the boat to slow it down, right? So that's what we're looking at, is we're just thinking, okay, be soft into the catch. Don't try to rush through anything. Rowing a high rate and rowing a quick stroke is never about rushing any phase. It's just about going through the phases quicker. That's, if that makes sense. We're just going through that pattern a little quicker. Think of it as if I'm riding a bicycle. When I'm pedaling my feet, right? If I want to go faster, I don't change anything. I don't rush through anything because my feet are locked into that circular motion. They have to travel the exact same path. We just start moving our legs faster through that path. That's kind of what it is here. We're just going to make everything go through there a little quicker. We're not rushing through a particular portion of the stroke. It's not like I can be quicker through the 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock hands of my bike pedal. I can't be faster through there and then normal through the rest. That would be a very inefficient way of pedaling a bicycle. Think of it the same way with rowing. We don't want to rush certain things to push that rate up. We just want to do everything in a little bit more accelerated pattern, if that makes sense. All right, here we go. I think this is Temple Challenge Cup, she said. Durham and Princeton. I just wanted to say I like this guy's body position. He's very tall, head is up, shoulders are relaxed. Look at this and compare him with this guy who's all scrunched over, right? This is going to be a much stronger engagement in that drive. This guy here is going to be putting a lot of force on that back. He's going to put a lot of strain, and it's going to be a much harder on the body physically, and you're not going to get the same kind of return on it. So this guy here is looking very strong. This guy here should sit up a little bit taller. Again, this might be an issue of him either just collapsing or he might be sitting a little bit off there. So following up on what I talked about off the start, we can see Princeton here is already taking it pretty significantly, but we're going to look at stroke seat here. And we can see, look at the angle that he's in. Look at this body position here. Okay, it's not tall, it's not up, it's not ready to take that weight. So the first part, when we see something like this here, we can say this guy here is not going to be getting a tremendous amount of engagement and power right off the start. He's too bent over to really have a good, strong connection, I think, right? He needs to sit up taller. Again, what I like to coach people to do is think of not getting the chest to the knees, but getting the lower ribs to the thigh. If we do that, we've got good compression, and we want to keep that body, that chest up, that head up, right? See this guy here, this guy's looking pretty good. He's got a nice straight body position, head is up, right? That's what we want to do. We want to do that, and then make sure we hold this angle through the leg drive to really allow the engagement. See, he's opening up probably a little early, but for the most part, he's doing good. But that kind of upper body position, more upright position, it's going to save strain on these vertebrae in the back, and it's going to allow us to really brace against the lock of the blade and get a good engagement and really pry that boat past the pivot point really well. So now we're a little further down the course, but we're going to look at the Princeton crew in relation to what we were talking about with the other crew. And again, we see a lot more people. See here, we got lower ribs up to the thigh, or to the thigh. We're not collapsing on top of the knees. This guy's very much more upright. This guy's very much more upright. This guy's very much more upright. It's more about getting that lower rib compression against the thigh than it is about reaching out. When we reach, and I describe reaching basically as something where the shoulders start to drop, okay, where suddenly we're extended, and as you reach forward, the back will bend, or you'll start falling onto your knees, and that brings the shoulders down into the boat. Because now they're not at the natural height where they can get good engagement. You have to use energy to get them back up there before we actually are in a good, strong driving position. But here, look at this crew. They're all looking very upright. Let's go through it here. We'll back up. Look at that extraction. That's nice. That's nice stuff. You see full face of the blade. Now it's the back of the blade, obviously, and there's a timing issue here from bow seat coming out a little early. But look at that. Nice, good extraction. That's freaking pretty solid stuff. Pretty solid stuff. See, look at this. They come forward. Look at these guys. They're all nice, tall, upright. We do see this guy's maybe right now a little bit forward, but this is pretty solid. They're all in an upright, strong position to take that drive. We're not seeing anybody's upper chest collapsed on top of the knees, right? Nobody's falling forward. They're all staying tall, they're all staying engaged, and they're making sure that those shoulders aren't collapsing into the boat. Whereas if you look at the other crew, you'll see a lot of people with that reaching position, that low position, which we don't really want. All right, so this here is something that I'm not a big fan of. This is the Prince Albert, I think they said it was, but we've got Edinburgh here and a U.S. crew here. I can't remember the name. Here's what I don't like seeing. See, when I was talking about earlier setting the blade height early in the release process so that we don't have to make any vertical changes as we come into the catch. Look at Two Seats blade here. Right? They've come through the release. They do their extraction, such as it is, and I think that's not a good extraction because it basically just laid down on the water. And when I talk about bringing the bottom of the blade to the top rather than the top to the bottom, we can see this blade here. Here's the top, and here's the top, and the bottom's way down there at the water. The bottom's way down here at the water, and boom. Now the top has come down to meet the bottom of that blade. So this to me is not necessarily as effective release as you could get. I mean, you know, you're just going to be laying on the water. And in fact, this is what he does, right? Look at that. He lays his blade on the water. That's going to be drag, right? That's just slowing you down. Why put your blade on the water? You're just slowing it down. It's like driving your car with the emergency brake on, okay? See, there's a tap. Every time you tap, you're giving somebody else a little speed and you're possibly making your boat less stable. So don't do it. But now, as he comes up, and look at this. Oh, he's not over. The knees are coming up when his hands are right there. Yeah, I'm not necessarily a big fan of this here. But anyways, now watch. Right? Look at how much this blade has to change height. Look at that blade shaft. How much did that have to change height to get a full square? So that's a lot of vertical motion. And where does that blade shaft end up? Basically parallel to the water. Right? If he had just done that right off the release, it would have made sure that he didn't have that tap in the middle, that he wasn't dragging his blade, that he got his blade up and out of the danger zone, and then he would have to change nothing more. Boom, his next vertical motion would be placing the blade in the water to take the catch. Right? That would save that vertical oscillation of the boat, because this whole time there's vertical motion from here all the way to here. And now there's more vertical motion as he's putting that in. And that vertical motion is, over time, going to start sapping some of that speed because we want as much force as possible moving in a horizontal direction. That's what we want. Right?
Years of the Diamond Jubilee Challenge Cup here at Henley Royal Regatta. It was introduced back in 2012 to commemorate the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. The name of this event, but good start here from both crews, and it's Claire's Court with the early advantage, Sarah.
I just love the junior quads, the Forley and the Diamond Jubilee, the quality and the maturity of so.
Gabriella Fabry in the bow seat, and they've gone through this season racing in the championship quad. Shocked as they cross the line, a very dominant performance, and we must commend that here for all of them will be the winners here. So we're now with the Temple Challenge Cup for student aids, and we're overhead with Oxford Brookes University, who will be facing up against Nottingham University. Programs seeds them, I think. Oxon years announcement at Universe Challenge Cup. Nottingham, Oxford Brookes. Attention. So here we go, the noise of the crashing blades through the water, pushing all that water back towards the start line as Nottingham University on the Berkshire station go head-to-head with Oxford Brookes University B. My fault, I thought this was the A crew, but it is the B crew going up here, and great shots of Nottingham on screen now.
Good pick up there, Camilla, and the Temple, such a tough event. We had 50 boats entering the qualifiers on Friday, and only 5 of those 50 qualifying for the main draws, so incredible just to qualify for this event. It's incredibly tough. But of course, all eyes, as always, on Oxford Brookes, but not.
Great step up and on for them, and they're looking very long in these early stages.
Yeah, rowing really nicely there together, as you say, well set off the bat.
See, there's one.
And getting nice length around the pin together, but they're always going to have a tough challenge with the crew off to their left-hand side in the buck station. Oxford Brooks, of course, good experience here at Henley Regatta. Their three-seat Matthew Peters, 24 years of age, 4 previous Henley Royal Regattas, so certainly well experienced. Under 23, 8 bronze, medal winner at the European Championships for Britain back in 2022.
I mean, that goes to say something about the quality of the Brooks programme, right? Is that we've got under 23 European medalists in the B crew, in the Temple, of which, you know, we've got above them an A crew in the Temple, a ladies' plate 8, a grand 8 in conjunction with Taurus, national level
Of that.
99 athletes, and I've done that, I think, any
Like that Brooks lead here over Nottingham University. In the Cox seat, Rosie Simons, 18 years of age. The only one without any Henley experience actually is the first Henley Regatta.
medalist characteristics, sort of rowing from Oxford Brooks, isn't it? That big sort of sit around the finish, let the boat move underneath them, and relaxing and not expending on their iron put. It's
Such one out there, but anyway, the quality of racing, and you look at the quality that is missing out through the qualifiers, and it tells you that what we have here is some of the best in the world, not just here in Britain.
what an iconic shot that.
Yeah, great shot.
Yeah,
great camera shot.
He learned to row here at Nottingham. He's closest to you on screen at the moment. And,
Great shot, great shot. It's really nice stuff. That's nice stuff.
And another medic as well, George Wright, in the 5 seats, who's graduating this year. His race day, and they'll have overlap as they come back towards Oxford Brooks, but not enough. The Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup for schoolboy 8s, and we've got a real classic on our hands here. Challenge Cup for schoolboy 8s, and we've got a real classic. On our hands here. Hampton School on the Berkshire Station, Radley College on the Buckinghamshire Station. And Sarah, these are 2 schools that frequent this Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup often.
Yes, they need no introduction in this event. Radley College, Hampton School.
I hate
Steering
it.
corrections
I hate
there.
it
The
with a
Princess
passion.
are struggling maybe with a little bit of the flow around Temple Island, but now getting themselves back into it. Radley were really close to those boys as they came out of the box, and they really came back out into the centre of the course. So they'll have to get settled here, but Hampton School just taking the opportunity to grab a seat or 2.
Yeah, and I think they know they'll need to do that because, again, on paper, coming into this event.
So there's one of maximum compression. Just for a moment. That's pretty good.
We are silver medalists from the National Schools Regatta, so second best in the country overall. Hampton in that same event were 8th in the final, so a few rankings down. But look at this, Hampton still holding their own here as we approach halfway in this course. Hampton under new coaching stewardship. Josh Butler, the ex-Westminster coach, now moving to the upper stretches of the Thames to coach the Hampton boys. But Radley, you know, they've got one of the records that nobody wants in the Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup, which is record losses in the final. 7 losses in finals overall in this event. But given the race that Hampton are giving them here, Sarah, could we see a surprise exit of Radley on day 1?
Look, I don't know that I'd be putting money on that happening. I think that Radley are just getting themselves up into the lead here, but it's been a really extraordinary race from Hampton School. I mean, if you're coming up against a crew like Radley, what do? I think you throw the kitchen sink at it.
And we'll see that payback in the second half of the course, right? I'm only teasing. I think that they really have thrown everything. And the half mile, and they're stretching out here seat by seat.
Yeah, perhaps Radley just rattled a little bit by that little steering correction at the start, and then having Hampton be now that it was any racing back the Radley crew.
Coaching structure, I think they'll have a really good, encouraging thoughts about Henley's in years to come. You know, we must remember that Hampton, one of the schools in the late 80s that dominated this Princess Elizabeth Challenge, for his final at the helm of Radley College. Once again, I think the PE is always one of the noisiest ones, especially two British schools that are part of that sort of plan. We're now onto the Wide Challenge Cup, those club Coxless Fours, Thames Rowing Club going up against Lee Rowing Club, Thames on the left and Lee on the right hand side of your picture, Barks and Bucks respectively, and Thames Rowing Club going up against Challenge Cup, those club Coxless Fours, Thames Rowing Club going up against Lee Rowing Club, Thames on the left and Lee on the
Lee Rowing Club, this crew coached by Donald Ellis. It's yet to race, and none of these athletes have previous Henley Royal Regatta experience, so it is a crew that's going to be learning as they go coming down the track here, both in terms of getting the crew together and also learning the track.
Yeah, I was actually talking to one of their other coaches, Sarah, and this Lee crew have done very well to qualify to the draw. I was talking to Charles Barry, one of their coaches. It's a development boat. They've only been together since the beginning of June, and actually
They certainly have. As we see a big steering correction there from Lee Rowing Club, this crew coached by Donald.
I was actually talking to one of their other coaches, Sarah, and this Lee crew have done very well to qualify to the draw. I was talking to Charles Barry, one of their coaches. It's a development boat. They've only been together since the beginning of June, and actually the stroke man here, Ed White, it's his first time stroking the boat, and he's steering the boat from stroke, which is quite a challenge at your first ever race at Henley Royal Regatta in this boat, right?
Look, nothing like a bit of pressure to really teach you how to get something done, but that is a talk to any other regatta or start sequence that you'll experience.
Regattas in years to come in the future.